In this episode, we'd like to talk about the benefits of introducing and keeping bees in your garden to help with pollination, and the right plants is what we're going to focus on. So we all hear about bees and how beneficial they are, but they really are a part of our whole food system. If you don't have a bee to pollinate your apple trees, then you don't have the apples. So we talk about all the time trying to encourage the right plants so that the bees will have what they need to stay in your garden. And here we have a grand selection of different perennials around us. In the corner we're looking at fruit trees, and but some of the types of perennials will be good hardy perennials that'll come back year after year, and they're more likely to be there to provide the bees with the pollen they need. And of course, it's not bad to have a bottle of honey, but the idea is these pollinators are plants that yarrow, one of the many. There's so many different types of plants that tick seed is a large perennial. When you think of bees, it's pretty hard not to be thinking about bee balm. One of the Monardia is a plant that really does encourage bees to stay in your garden. It's along with the color that you get. Some of the blues and yellows are the colors that bees gravitate towards. Lupins, early flowering when there's not as much flower available. The number of plants that you choose for bees also double for butterflies. One of the popular ones is the butterfly weed, and it encourages both bees and butterflies. So a lot of these perennials, you plant them, they come back year after year, they multiply and give you a real show in your garden while you're supporting the bees. So when you're looking for the right plants, bee balm is a good one. But here's some of the coneflower. One of the excellent plants for encouraging bees into your garden, and keeping them. The brown-eyed Susan. It's a sort of a biennial, but it reproduces once you have it established. You usually have it for years. The Monardia or bee balm comes in different shades, and that again is just a free flowering plant that will really produce great habitat for keeping bees happy. And blues and yellows for some reason seem to be some of the popular colors to sage and the yarrow, tick seed. Are plants that will really bring the bees in and keep them around your yard. Everything that we grow in the gardens needs to be pollinated to set its fruit. Apples are a prime example. In the early part of the season, there's nothing more beautiful than apple blossoms in bloom, but it needs two varieties of pollen to produce the fruit. So you take a Cortland and a Honeycrisp, and the bee flies from one to the other. He carries the pollen, and then the fruit sets. If we didn't have bees and other insects pollinating, you wouldn't have your fruit. So we do everything we can to bring these bees, and having plants in your garden that encourage the bees will also cause the fruit to set. Here in the early part of the spring, we have a tremendous amount of blossom on these plants. They don't usually start to produce until they're in the garden for a few years, but when they're stressed from being dug, they'll flower early, and the bees are here in numbers early in the season. You think of bees as being in a large colony or a beehive, but there's little bees that are a real benefit to your garden. This is a little house designed to attract mason bees. They move into the tubing. You can build your own, or you can buy one that's already constructed, and the bee will help with a great deal of pollination while he lives quietly in the back of your lot. They come in all sizes, but here's another example of a house for mason bees. It also attracts ladybugs and butterflies, and it's a real condominium. So in the end of it, the more flowering plants that we plant, the better it is for our bees. And if you want to have a good productive vegetable garden, you need to have pollinators. So that's where the bees come in. So don't forget to like and share, and comments are great. You can always check us out at scottsnursery.tv.